Good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. It's good to have you here. It's a cold evening, but it's good that you have made it out here. Fantastic. Well, I just want to say a few words before I introduce Chris Dawson, who will then introduce Lord Monckton. Today we are hosting this meeting under the banner of Rise Up Australia Party, Keep Australia Australian. Yeah, I think we could give a clap. It was interesting when we have been thinking about this and working through in the last year to set up a political party as an alternative for the current scenario which is taking place. And I call it for what it is. We don't tell people what they like to hear, we tell people what they need to hear. Amen. Unfortunately, it seems that Bob Brown is running the country and Julia Gillard is walking behind him. And it should be the other way around. And we need a party which is going to take up a stand in the nation and stand strong for what is Australia. So we thought much, prayed much, and decided to launch a party called Rise Up Australia Party, Keep Australia Australian. Of course, the SBS News channel got in touch with me. We had about 39 media outlets broadcast what we have done in the last few days. And they said to me, Mike, it seems like people will be thinking that you're a racist. So I responded to the guy and I asked him, I said, are you telling me that I'm a racist? Of course, immediately he backed off and he said, no, I don't, you know. Then he said, but it sounds like a Pauline Hanson party, White Australia policy. I said, I think there's a little problem here. And he said, what is that? I said, this is a black fellow calling for Australia to be kept Australia. So I said, Mike, it cannot be a White Australia policy. It is a policy for all people. And I went on to tell him that I chose to come into this country. No one asked me to come into this country. So does many immigrants who come into this land. And once we come, we decide, because this is a better place, we have left our home to come and live in this land. And I think it's our duty to stand by the nation that we are coming to, embrace the nation and become Australian. So I told him this is about Australian who comes into this country, abide by the laws of this country, respect the country. Yes, have your Lebanese bread. Yes, have your Italian pizza. You've got to have Sri Lankan curry, because if not, you can't survive. Yes, have Chinese fried rice. What did you say? But when you come into this country and tell us that these laws, I don't respect the law of this country, we want a separate legal system to run in this country, sorry, you're in the wrong place. And you have no place in this country if you want another law in this country. Respect common law. Our laws are based on the Judeo-Christian foundations. The Ten Commandments makes the stage for our laws to be introduced, and which was introduced. We thank God for the British who came upon this nation. As that song spoke, one of our ladies wrote that song. Yes, they came with chains, but they have turned this nation into a democracy, which is the envy of many nations of the world right now. And if we, as this generation, don't stand up right now and draw the line on the sand and protect our nation, what will happen is we'll leave a messed up nation to our sons and daughters and our grandchildren. That's what's happening in Europe, will happen here. Someone asked me, one of the media reporters asked me recently, how long do you think, current affairs, they said, how long do you think before we follow Europe? I said, we possibly have 20 years. We are about 20 years behind them. And I think when God created the universe, possibly he took Australia and he chucked it right down under. And he said, sort of, I'm securing you with a lot of water right around you so these guys can't come, you know. But if we say she'll be right mind and go to sleep and don't take a stand right now, our children and grandchildren will pay the price for what we have not done. So we as a party, we embrace Australia, but we also stand very strongly against multiculturalism. And the question is asked, why not? You are an immigrant, Mike. Why don't you embrace multiculturalism? Well, if you tell a lie long enough, people will believe that it is the truth. Nazism, communism, were nice words for a season until many thousands were destroyed. Multiculturalism, a part of multiculturalism is Islam, is also culture and religion. So if you embrace multiculturalism, you are compelled to embrace Islamic Sharia law. That's how they got into Britain and all of Europe. That's what they want in Australia. It's not a little group of people, a fanatical fundamental group of Muslims who are asking for Islamic Sharia law. The Islamic Federation of Australia is asking for Islamic Sharia law, and they are currently operating by stealth. Islamic Sharia law with polygamy also as a part of it. And that's not the only thing. Centrelink is actually giving them payments while they look after 4 wives, which is absurd. So we as a party want to take a stand. Someone asked me this question. They said, you know, I was in a court case for 5 years, and many people asked me the question. They said, why don't you simply back off and, you know, just don't rub shoulders with these guys? Well, I was threatened with death several times. Several times they threatened to bomb my house, firebomb my house and my office. Then they threatened to kidnap my children from school. And people say, don't you back off at some point? I said, no, I don't back off. Because I will not leave the baggage for my children. I love my children and the children of this nation. We need to take a stand, and we need to take a stand right now. People of this generation, if we don't stand, we will not have the Australia that we have 20 years from now. Europe is in a mess to a great extent. 88 Sharia courts in Britain and all through France and all the other European countries. Multiculturalism has been a failure, and Germany, the Chancellor has clearly stated it's a failure. So has David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, stated it's a failure. And now the Dutch government has introduced legislation in the Dutch Parliament to abolish multiculturalism. Then what do we replace it with? With multi-ethnic Australians. You cannot change the country of my birth or my origin. That is Sri Lanka, where I come from. But I'm Australian right now. So we have one culture, and that's the Australian way of life. So I want to say, rise up Australia. Keep Australia Australian. Is your alternative. Is your alternative for the next federal election to become a voice. And I will be contesting for a Senate seat in Victoria the next election. Now let me close with this. You give us preacher the mic, and then you can't get it off him in a hurry. But definitely I'll close with this. We need to have 500 members as quickly as we can. Currently we are about 325, 350 thereabout in the last 1.5 months. We need about 150 members more so that we could register the party with the Australian Electoral Commission and get ready for the next federal election. If you believe in Australia being kept Australian, a party which is going to stand for our nation, then I would say you should pick a form, fill it tonight. Don't say, I'm going to send it back tomorrow. You know, we have a statement, she'll be right, mate. We put the form on the table, and then the cleaning service in the house comes 2 days later and takes it off the table, that's your wife, and puts it on the bench top. Then from the bench top, it goes on top of the fridge. And then it stays over the fridge with dust collecting on it for 3 months. So I want you to take a form, fill it tonight after the meeting, and become a member of Rise Up Australia Party. What is your commitment? $20 and your membership form. That's about it, which will help us elect, register our party and become a voice in this nation. Friends, it's my joy this evening to have Lord Monckton with us. I think it's a great privilege to have such a man of that caliber amongst us tonight. Could you give him a hand, please? And at this point, I want to invite Chris Dawson from the Climate Skeptics Group introduce Lord Monckton. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Dawson from the Climate Skeptics Party. The Climate Skeptics Party will work with other parties to defeat this global warming scam.
Amen.
And we'd like to thank Pastor Danny here for inviting us here this evening. Obviously he's really inviting Lord Monckton, but we've been supporting Lord Monckton's tour all around Australia, this very timely tour, I might add. First, I'd like to thank all of you here for coming tonight, and also mention that the nationally televised debate that was on the National Press Club in Canberra took place last week was a watershed, I think. But whatever is going to happen, it's possible that we might have an election very soon.
Yes.
So I urge you to fill out those forms that Pastor Danny mentioned just a minute ago. So with apologies to Edmund Burke, the only thing necessary for the triumph of ignorance and mass hysteria is for good men to do nothing. One such good man who has done something and who has stood out like a light on the hill through all the dark times of ignorance and mass hysteria about climate change is Lord Monckton, and I'd like you to welcome him now.